lot of people have asked. So let me start with page 7. Let me draw these people on the train because this is a really good way to think about focus also. I love these spaces where there are lots of people and I'm called on to focus on something. So let me tell you what is interesting to me. What is interesting to me in this scene already is this perspective going down into the distance. What is interesting to me here are these three people right in front of me, how they are standing, how they're all three doing different things. And I like that. So they are my subjects, and I'm also interested in this perspective. So I'm going to focus on these two aspects and show you how I would draw them. Now, the rule being, if I'm spiraling out from a point of interest, I want to start with something that will help me draw everything else. So why don't I start with this pillar right in front of me? And one strong line to define it, to define the top of my page, my scene, and also to define the bottom, how far down do I go? Not a straight line. I don't draw many straight lines. I don't think straight lines are important. They are frankly overrated. All my lines are slightly curvy and curled in just the way that I would make them. I urge you to also make your lines the way you would make them, and to try to go in all kinds of different directions to find what is most fun for you. So say I start with something like this. There's a person here, but I don't really want to draw them. So something person. The person I really wanted to draw is over here. And I know where to begin because I can see their head resting against the pillar. So I use this line to jump to this line here. Long lines, my lines. And their jacket. Again, a long line. Another long line for their sleeve and the arm going up to the phone. This is an authentic line that only you could make in this manner. I find it difficult to draw hands, so I just scribble them on somehow. And if I can just keep your focus on the activity, so you know what they're doing, it doesn't actually matter if you drew the arm, the hand exactly in the right way. Their bag is below them here. So again, a long line to capture this otherwise complicated shape. And then I go into it and I fill in details that I think are necessary. Hair is fun to do. So sometimes once I've done the outer shape of someone's body, I do come back to draw their hair. Something like this here, maybe with the reverse side of the nib so I can get a thinner line. And now again, I'm going to take information to jump to the next line I need to make. So from here, I jump to the other person. I take this line up to this height. Same line goes to draw the hair. Same line still continues down the rest of their body and on to the next person, the other person I wanted to draw. The same line goes on and on. This is a way to save time. This is a way to draw while you're able to see them, because you're on a train. You have no idea which stop they might get off at. So the long lines that you make will help you to finish your drawings and to capture what you see before it is lost. You have to trust yourself to make these lines, and there is a certain amount of joy you get from doing it. It might seem intimidating, but once you start doing it, you really find that joy. Mostly long lines to finish this figure. Now I come back to her. So I didn't necessarily wait to finish her before I went to the other person. This is the luxury you can take. You can give yourself this luxury because your job is to follow the lines and not necessarily finish one thing and then draw the next thing. If this person had left and another person came here, I'm at the point where I just have to draw face, so I can put someone else's face here. It's not really necessary to draw this exact person because I'm not trying to draw a portrait. This is not about an individual. This is about a scene and human dynamics. And sometimes people change, and sometimes you can splice two different people together into your scene. Let me look at some of the questions that people have asked. How do you get over this is too big or too short? Suggestions for perspectives or angles. You know, the answer, Anthony, is what you said. Just roll with it. Your perspective does not actually have to be exactly correct. Your wonky shapes are your wonky shapes. Live with it. Those are the way that you have drawn, and a lot of great art is not actually very realistic or very, accurate, so to speak, in terms of anatomical details. Allow your lines to go where they go, see what you do, and when it comes to actually correcting things, the more you draw, the better ideas you have, and the better confidence you have in doing this thing that I just did, which is to take a line from an unconventional direction, go up and connect different things. The better you get at looking at a thing and translating it onto the page, the easier it is to solve these problems. There's no answer to solving them. There's really just the number of lines you need to go through in order for your hand and your eyes to be trained into solving this problem. One day you'll simply have a solution because you did it enough times. The key to doing it enough times is to take joy in it, to not get frustrated, and for that, you need to stay tapped into what makes you curious. So, like I said, this perspective makes me curious. How do I depict this perspective without, quote unquote, getting it wrong? So, you don't actually have to get it, quote unquote, right. What you have to get is consistency. It has to look right with respect to everything else. So, bold lines, no hedging. This line is going to come and it's going to rest somewhere on top of this other person who is over here, also looking at their phone. Everybody is always just looking at their phone. It's actually really easy to draw people in public because every single person is in this same pose for the most part, just looking at their phones. So this line has to come and rest on top of his head and start somewhere below here. Like this, maybe. And this one goes even further away, somewhat. That's all. Maybe and somewhat. You don't have to be exactly correct. This has to be above this one, and the line next to it just a little bit more, and then this horizontal, which goes above this person's head, and then a very bold line going in the other direction. You have to trust yourself to do it. The more you do it, the more you trust yourself, the better it gets. When you have bad lines, the answer is, in fact, yes. Just roll with it, just live with it. It really doesn't matter. You would be surprised by how little it matters how straight your lines are, how correct your perspective is. Because these drawings are not meant to be photos. These drawings are meant to be in the moment, especially when you're drawing on the train. So I'm drawing this on my desk and I'm sitting by resting this page on the steady desk. But often I am drawing on the train and the train is shaking quite a lot. If you draw in New York, the train shakes more than anywhere else in the world. Vancouver trains also shake quite a bit. Not as much as New York though, but your lines are never going to be as good as this. That doesn't matter. They don't have to be. What they have to be is a testament to the moment. What you should think about, here's a useful comparison. Think about a diary entry. If you made a very heartfelt diary entry, would you go back a year later and change it? Would you go back even the next day and change it? Does it make sense to change something that was an authentic, honest expression of yourself? Is this something that should be a certain way or should it be truthful? It's the same way with a sketchbook page. You want it to say the truth. So, the truth of this moment, if you're drawing on the train, might be that the train was super shaky and I couldn't get my lines right and I couldn't get my perspective right. The truth of this moment might be that because it was so crowded and because I didn't know where anybody was getting off, my subject just left. So, I couldn't complete them. The truth of this moment might be that my stop came up and I had to leave, so I couldn't complete it. All of those things mean that you don't have to put this burden of completion or accuracy on this job of making a drawing. A drawing, especially drawing in public, is simply a record of the moment. And your job is to be authentically and completely immersed in that moment. As I go further away into my scene, I start drawing with the reverse side of the nib because that makes the line just that little bit thinner, and a thick line appears closer to the page and a thin line appears further into the page, further away from everything else. So it creates an illusion of depth in a flat page. So just to emphasize that depth, often I will do this, add a thick border to my foreground elements. This person here gets a thick border too. Just following the lines. I don't know where the lines go. I just follow them as well as I can. So we have about 5 minutes left on the 20-minute exercise. I hope some of you have been drawing, but no worries if you find more value in watching me draw. Vero says, my people are on a bus that's about twice as wide. So, this does tend to happen. So let me give you another idea to think about.